We are on air.
We are on air. Good morning. This is the regular open meeting of the Third Laguna Hills Mutual Board of Directors, a California nonprofit mutual benefit corporation. Tuesday, May 18th, 2021. It is 9:31 a.m. I now call the meeting to order. The next item on the agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance, and it will be led by Director John Franco.
Please follow me in the Pledge of Allegiance to our flag. Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to our flag of the United States
States of America and
to
to the
the
Republic for
for which it stands, one
one
nation,
nation, under God,
indivisible,
indivisible, with liberty.
liberty, and justice for all.
Thank you, Director Franco, for leading us in the Pledge of Allegiance. The next agenda item is I would like to recognize any immediate presence, including Village Television. The next item on the agenda is approval of the agenda for today. Can I hear a motion to approve the agenda? So Donna motion, and Lynn second. Is there any discussion or any additions to the agenda? Any opposition to the agenda? Hearing none, then the agenda for today is approved. The next item is approval of the minutes for April 20th, 21, the regular open board meeting. Can I have a motion to approve these minutes? Okay, Debbie makes the motion. Is there a second? Robert second. Is there any discussion in terms of these minutes? Any opposition to the approval of these minutes? Hearing none, then the minutes for the April 20th meeting is approved. The next item on the agenda is the report of the chair. And for our listening audience, we do have a video that we're going to be showing in auto, without any auto. And this is a tribute to one of our own directors, Bert Muldell. And while the video is playing, I will just read a few comments regarding Bert. And again, this video has no audio. So whenever you're ready, start the video. So Laguna Woods and Third Mutual in particular lost a very good friend with the passing of Bert Maldo. He was forward-thinking and constantly sought out technologies that could be applied to save residents of Laguna Woods money while also helping the environment. Bert started the first Laguna Woods Village Energy Club and invited lecturers to talk to residents about the energy and monetary savings of residential solar and LED lighting. There was always an Energy Club booth at Earth Day celebrations. Bert even organized several EV car shows to introduce residents to electric vehicles when they were still a novelty. Bert led several trips to the National Fuel Cell Research Center at UC Irvine to see if fuel cells could be economical to install in GRF facilities to save money. Bert's lasting contribution to the community came when he was elected to Third Mutual Board. The dim lighting in Third Mutual's 3-story buildings, walkways, rec rooms, garages, carports, cul-de-sac walkways, standalone laundries, and street lights became his cause to fix. The streets and cul-de-sac light poles in most of Third Mutual now have LED light fixtures and are saving Third Mutual about $50,000 per year in SCE tariff charges, thanks to Bert's persistence. The carports and garages in Third Mutual are lit up like a holiday festival at night with LED lighting. Bert sought additional ways to conserve energy by getting VMS staff to eliminate oversized hot water heaters in most laundry rooms, especially after high efficiency, low water use front loading clothes washers were installed. He was also instrumental in having VMS eliminate redundant hot water heaters in laundry rooms that were just heating water with no purpose other than being emergency backup. Bert knew that Third Mutual could save money by installing solar panels on some of the three-story buildings in Third Mutual. He was a driving force in the implementation of 12 rooftop solar installations. The solar electricity production today is running at least a 5% return on investment, which will only increase with the looming SCE electricity rate increases. When Bert was elected to the GRF board, he moved swiftly to see that GRF facilities and parking lot lighting were upgraded to brighter and more energy-efficient LED lighting. He continued to lobby the community to hire a facilities engineer to better manage the energy consumption in GRF facilities. He was always educating himself on new technologies and continually looked for government and industry energy rebates and initiatives to help defray the cost of projects like LED lighting and EV charging stations. Bert died before he could see GRF and the community implement microgrid technology. He knew that microgrids could offer energy savings to GRF facilities on a daily basis, while being able to produce electricity independent of SCE electric grids, if and when the SCE electric grids fail. For those of us who worked and served with Bert, his passing is a significant loss. He left Laguna Woods a better place to live with a legacy that will hopefully endure in the community for many generations to come. And to Gloria and to the rest of Bert's family, from the Third Mutual Board, we offer our deepest condolences to you. Thank you for being by Bert's side as he served the community. Thank you. And that is the end of my chair remarks. So the next item on the agenda is the open forum. Okay. Members, at this time, members may only address the Board of Directors regarding items not on the agenda and within the jurisdiction of this Board of Directors. The board reserves the right to limit the total amount of time allotted for open forums. Members can join the Zoom meeting by clicking on the link http://zoom.us, and then the number is 948-998-06730, or you may call 949-268-2020 or email at meeting@vms.org to request to speak. The board will respond to all comments once all comments have been made. So, staff, do we have any member comments?
We have two email comments, Madam President. The first one is from Mary Collier, who lives at 5325 Bahia Blanca. I'm not available to participate in the board Zoom meeting, but I would like to express my enthusiastic support for the request to construct a pedestrian ramp walkway for the buildings along our section of Bahia Blanca West. Having only stairway access to my Unit B manor impacts several issues that come up for me periodically. These include the size and weight of items I arrange to have delivered, the same for items I need to move myself between my manor and the street level, and frequent limits on friends I'm able to invite as guests on their ability to navigate the stairs. Further, I've often wondered if there's a liability issue for the association in the event of an emergency, such as a fire, if the only way to get to the street is via the stairway. A pedestrian ramp constructed somewhere along the open space between the two buildings of 5232 and 5331 would provide an alternative access to and from the street for people in situations where using the stairways is not convenient or even possible. Please share this email with the board members at their meeting. Thank you very much. The second comment we have is from Karen Shore. And Karen is at 4012 Calle Sonora. My comments pertain to the May 14th presentation entitled Information Meeting Regarding Insurance. It ended with the reading of a few resident questions answered by Directors Dodson, Karimi, and Engdahl. Like Director McCary, all comments were read from a prepared statement which lacked details, missed the mark, or could not be heard. It took repeat listening to get the information that was presented to realize what was missing, such as what effect the proposed amendment could actually have on our insurance premiums in 2022 and beyond. This information would have done much to highlight the benefit of passing the upcoming ballot for amendment of Article 11 in our CC&Rs. This was a missed opportunity to discuss further the purpose of the amendment. Director Muchnick said the new evaluation for the community is $3.4 billion. He did not explain why $1.6 billion is the amount of insurance now carried or will again be sought next year. He also indicated an insurance policy for 2022 could be 20 to 30% higher than we paid in 2021. He made no comment regarding the effect passing the ballot could have on any amount of increase to the insurance premiums or resident assessments. At this time, I'm requesting the answers to my question, which is what effect our yes vote on the upcoming ballot could possibly have on the 2022 insurance premium and our monthly assessment. And that is all.
Thank you. So there are no more member comments?
We do have one member comment from the Zoom audience. I will bring them over right now.
Hello?
Good morning.
Hello there. Hi. I'm also interested in supporting the pedestrian type walkway for the villas of 5232 through 5331 Bahia Blanca. We're very concerned that there's no pedestrian access other than a 15 steep concrete steps that look like, I don't know if you can see it, they look like this. The only way to access this whole row of villas. And we feel this is an important safety and liability issue perhaps for the mutual. We live in a wildfire zone and in a state prone to earthquakes. In the event of a catastrophe, seniors who are disabled, injured, or otherwise unable to quickly climb 15 steps would be in great danger and essentially be trapped. So we are highly in favor of the board approving the installation of a pedestrian walkway that would provide wheelchair access and connect the upper and lower sidewalks, or even a renovation of one of the current ramps that the gardeners use to drive their carts up and down might be also an idea. One of these is here. I don't know if you can see that. And this is a close-up of that. Oops. Repaving and adding a handrail so that that would connect to the upper and lower sidewalks would really be a safety issue for people, as well as making it more convenient for moving in and out, moving large appliances. And we have also noticed, having walked through the neighborhood and looked at the same manors across the street from us, numbers 5347 through 5358. They have the same design as this strip of homes, but if you walk there, you do eventually connect to a sidewalk, so you're not just trapped as we are between the Gate 10 road and these villas that run along that edge. So it seems quite unsafe, and so we would highly be in support of the board voting to install a new walkway to connect the upper and lower sidewalks, or to renovate either one or the other that are already used by the gardeners. So thank you very much for your consideration.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Are there any other member comments?
We do have a member comment from a David King. I will move him next.
Hello?
Good
Hello?
morning. We can hear you. Good morning.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I also favor the Linda's suggestion because my tenant lives in 5327 Bahia Blanca West, and last year I think he fell from the stairs because he mentioned that stairs in some days a little bit slipperier than others, and again, I'm all for that the ramp if it's anything if it's possible.
Thank you, Mr. King.
We have one more speaker.
Yes, good morning. Good morning, board. Director Frankel. I don't know who to address this. I just wanted to find out for some of the repairs in the community association areas, what is the best way of corresponding with the board so these items get addressed? I've sent information back in February, was not addressed. Again, February the 9th, February 16th, December 16th. It's now 6 months. I haven't got a response from the board. And I'm listening to the comments on this group chat. Someone is falling down the steps, and I've got some steps at a unit occupied by a tenant at 2250 Via Mariposa. I've sent pictures in, but I'm not getting any response, and I have a feeling that your communication portal is broken.
Thank you. Kelvin? Grant, was that our last member comment?
Yes.
Okay, so all members are moved out of the meeting into moved out of the meeting audience. Okay, so now it's time for response to member comments. So I'm going to ask Jeff and Robert if you would have any comments for Mrs. Collier with the ramp and the other residents. There were 3 people that had the same issue with the ramp.
Well, the ramp issue is something that the M&C committee will look into the next time it meets. I hope that at this point, somebody has submitted a formal request for that ramp. I don't know if that's the case or not, but we'll look into it at the next M&C meeting.
Okay. Thank you. Any other member comments on that issue or director comments on that issue? Okay, thank you. So that addresses, there were 3 comments regarding the repairs. And let's see, Kelvin had a comment about how to address the board, to get his information to the board. So any directors want to make a comment on that or respond?
He did not identify where he lived. So we don't, I mean, he mentioned an address of a tenant. So I guess that would be his thing, but all of the communication, there's multiple ways to communicate with us. Resident services at vmsinc.org, that will get a request regarding, I believe he mentioned steps, but if you have concerns about steps, you would start first with resident services. If you're not getting a result, you can also reach us through the office. And I don't know if we're able to put up the addresses on the screen, but that would be very helpful rather than reading them off. But yes, we're accessible, but you have to reach out to us through these venues. If you're going through the portal, you know, the portal is back up and running, but there are some issues. So I think the best thing is resident services for that's the main stop for everyone, is resident services at vmsinc.org.
Thank you, Director Dodson. Director Jarrett?
Thank you. I'd like to add to that. I don't think you mentioned the phone number, Debbie, did you? The phone number is 949-597-4600. So you can also reach resident services, that phone number, to call in a request. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Jarrett. Any other director comments? Hearing no other director comments. Oh,
you want me to address the insurance question raised by Ms. Shore?
Oh, sorry, I put my notes away. Absolutely, please do.
Okay. The answer to Ms. Shore's question, just as a reminder, was if the amendment passes, what impact? Well, actually, she had at least 2 questions. One was, if the amendment passes, what will the impact be on the cost of insurance for next year? And her second question was that we stated that the village is $3.4 billion in value, and then we talked about the $1.6 billion for Third Mutual. The whole village is valued last year at $3.4 billion. So when we went out for insurance last year, and we were working cooperatively with United and GRF in trying to purchase insurance, we had to use the figure $3.4 billion because we were all together. Now that we have separated from United, we are using the figure $1.6 billion, which represents the value of Third alone. So that's why the difference in the 2 values. The second question she had that I indicated was, what happens if the amendment does pass? What impact will that have on insurance costs? And the answer simply is, at this moment in time, we do not know. Until we get actual official quotes at the time of renewal, we won't know what the real impact will be. We do know that from last year, for example, we took $46 per manor per month out of the disaster fund to pay for the insurance, on top of the $20 per manor per month we charged members in their monthly assessment. We need to repay that disaster fund the $46 per manor per month. Also, knowing that insurance is going up anywhere from 20 to 30% for the next year, we expect that the assessment will still go up, folks. I don't want you to think that passing the amendment that there will be no increase in the assessment, because you need to understand that separate from insurance, the cost of water has gone up, the cost of electricity, labor. Labor in the village is getting a 2% raise for next year. Also, there's the minimum wage in the state of California is going up, and we have to absorb the additional costs for the increase in minimum wage. Also, supplies, the cost has gone up. For example, lumber has gone up in an extraordinary way. They estimate that if you were to build a new single-family house today, compared to last year at this time, that the cost would be $36,000 more because of the increased cost of materials. So please understand that even if we're able to corral to some degree the cost of insurance, things are still going up all across the village. And unless we start cutting services to compensate, we're going to have an increase no matter what we do.
Thank you, Director Munchnick. Director Rain Sosek, Donna?
I just want to clarify, I know everyone's read it, but there is also the corollary of the question, which is what happens if the amendment doesn't pass? And that is that we are would still be required to cover 100% replacement cost of the entire Third Mutual. So we can't predict what it would be if we get rid of that requirement and do something much more reasonable, which would be related more to an assumed loss. If 10% of the village were affected, that would be easily covered by a policy that wasn't up at 100%. So I think that whenever we're answering those questions of what can we assure will happen with rates if we pass it, there is also what we know will happen if we don't pass it. I thought that might be helpful.
Thank you, Director Donna. Director Franco? You're muted.
Yes.
If you have a comment?
I have a request to Robert Musnick. Would you ask Ernesto to do an evaluation of that ramp circumstance and present that to M&C? I'd like to get a professional opinion before we discuss it. Thank you.
Be happy to do that. But let me just also share with everybody who's listening today that this Friday we will have an open question and answer period beginning at 9:30. It'll be on TV6. There's a Zoom link that you all should have received for that Q&A. The meeting that we had last Friday that Ms. Shore was referring to was just an informational meeting, not a question and answer meeting. So, but we will take questions and answers this coming Friday, and there's another date set. I think it's June 7th, but don't quote me on the actual date.
It is June 7th.
It is June 7th, but this Friday and June 7th, we're having on TV6 and through Zoom an open question and answer where any member in Third Mutual can call in or send an email, and we'll be happy to respond to any and all questions related to insurance. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Director Munchnick. Director Dotson, did you have another comment?
No, I was just going to mention that we have the meeting on Friday for questions and answers, and that our original meeting was strictly for information only. That's why we read the questions and the answers.
Thank you, Director Dotson. Are there any other director comments? Seeing none, the next item on the agenda is the CEO CFO report. We have Jeff Parker and Shaban to give us a report.
Thank you, President McCary, and good morning to the board. Have a couple of updates with regards to COVID and also with regards to wearing masks that I wanted to provide. To begin with, very good news with regards to the COVID numbers in Orange County and throughout the state. They continue to decrease. Positive cases reported yesterday were only 39 in all of Orange County, with 0 deaths reported. In the Laguna Woods, the community of Laguna Woods, which we're a big part of, we've only seen 1 additional case in the last 2 weeks and no additional deaths in the last 2 weeks. So we've really stabilized here in the village. ICUs and hospitalizations are continue to be at one of the lowest points that we've seen since the pandemic started last March. Overall hospitalizations are at 79, with ICUs down to its lowest point that I've seen at 13 ICU beds in place at this point in time. The next step is for Orange County to go into the yellow stage or the yellow tier. It's anticipated that that will occur tomorrow. The announcement should come out later this afternoon that we're moving into the yellow tier, which will allow for additional capacity in activities. So where we were in some cases limited to 25%, we'll now be able to go to 50% capacity on our activities. And that will allow us to facilitate more people coming into such as the wood shop or the ceramics or the sewing machine areas. So in those areas, we'd be able to handle additional capacity, and certainly in outdoor activities the same way. One of the second thing that I wanted to mention was, with that positive news, is that the CDC had reported earlier new guidelines with regards to people who were vaccinated not having to wear masks. That is a CDC guideline. It's not a requirement, and each individual state has its own guidelines. The state of California, which Orange County follows, has not changed its guidelines with regards to the wearing of masks. So at this point in time, masks are still required, and I'm going to read a couple of them. So indoor settings, clearly outside of one's home and including public transportation, face coverings continue to be required regardless of vaccination status. So indoor settings, and then with regards to outside of the home, this is what we're talking about. We're going to a restaurant, we're going to a market, we're going to a store. If you're going indoors, face coverings are continued to be required regardless of vaccination status. For fully vaccinated people, face coverings are not required outdoors except when attending crowded outdoor events, such as live performances, parades, fairs, festivals, sporting events, or other similar activities. But if you're in an outdoor class, or in our case, tennis, pickleball, golf, then that would not be a requirement with regards to that. Again, it's outdoor settings where there is large crowds. Even if you're vaccinated, you'd be still required under state law and Orange County to wear the mask. For those people that are unvaccinated, face coverings are required outdoors anytime physical distancing cannot be maintained, including, of course, attending the same crowded outdoor events, live performances, parades, festivals, and sporting events. So there is if you go to the Orange County Healthcare website, they have a press release that they issued yesterday, trying to make sure everybody understands the difference between the CDC guidelines and what the state and Orange County are doing at this point in time. The third element of that I wanted to mention was that the governor continues to indicate that on June 15th, we will no longer be in California in a tiered status at all, that we will be open, that there won't be any masks required. And so we're watching that to see if the numbers continue to fall like they have been. Vaccination rates continue to go up, as indicated throughout the state of California. So we're keeping our fingers crossed that come June 15th, we're going to hear that we can start gearing up for a reopening for the whole village without the requirement of masks. So I know there's a lot of people that look forward to that day. And that includes our operation at our community center, our clubhouses, all of those things. We're putting our game plan together with regards to how we'll address those activities. The last thing I wanted to mention was that we are in full bore concept with regards to our budget preparation and budget activities. And I just wanted to mention for those who are watching relative to the third that your first two budget meetings are for landscape and maintenance, and those are on Wednesday, June 2nd and June 3rd. They'll be here in the boardroom on the 2nd. It'll be maintenance review, and that's at 9:30 a.m. on the 2nd. And then Thursday, June 3rd is 1:30 p.m. for landscape review. And those are your first two reviews. And then obviously we fall into putting that report back together and getting your first presentation in July for your first review of an overall plan. And that's all I have, and I'll turn it over to Siobhan.
Thank you, Jeff. Honorable President, members of the board, I have a few announcements for you this morning, please. The first one concerns the laundry coin exchange program. Due to the availability of quarters and reopening of bank branches, VMS's temporary program to distribute coins to residents in need of quarters for laundry services will end on Thursday, which is May 20th. On this day, May 20th, at the Performing Arts Center from 8 a.m. to noon or until supplies run out, residents from both mutuals can purchase up to 2 $10 quarter rolls paid for in exact paper currency, and then that will be the end of the program. The Recreation and Special Events Department is pleased to announce the Monday summer movie schedule. On the second and fourth Mondays in June, July, and August, residents may come to Clubhouse 5 to cool off and enjoy a movie. Movies will be shown at 11 a.m. and again at 4 p.m. On June 14th, the feature will be the Peanut Butter Falcon, and on June 28th, Soul will be shown. Movies are free, and reservations are required through the ActiveNet system 1 week in advance. Recreation also reminds residents that the Village Bazaar returns on Saturday, June 5th from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. in the Clubhouse 5 parking lot. Registration is open via ActiveNet. The booth fee is $10 for an 8 by 10 foot space that comes with one 8-foot table and 2 chairs. Spaces are assigned on a first come, first served basis, and more information is available from calling Recreation at 949-597-4382. Additionally, the Village Library and Laguna Woods History Center are open to residents. Library hours are Monday through Friday from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. and Saturday from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. History Center hours are 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. on weekdays and by appointment. Patrons must follow social distancing practices, and face coverings are still required. And lastly, just a reminder that resident services and manor alterations are open in the community center for appointments only. Resident services appointments will be between 1 p.m. and 4:30 p.m. I'm sorry, that didn't come out right. Between 1 and 4:30 p.m. daily for resident services. To schedule an appointment with resident services, please call 949-597-4600. And manor alterations appointments are available between 8 a.m. and noon daily. And you can reach manor alterations at 949-597-4616 to schedule an appointment. And that concludes my updates this morning. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff and Siobhan, for your report. The next item on the agenda is the consent calendar. All matters listed under the consent calendar. Director Dobson, you had a question?
I do. I have a question for Jeff and Siobhan. When do you anticipate that resident services will offer additional time? I mean, if we're going to go to 50% tomorrow, are you planning to add morning hours as well for resident services? And then the second part is regarding pools. And I know that, I understand that Brian was on TV yesterday and I did not see that. But the pool, there's been a lot of questions regarding reopening of the pools. So could you perhaps address that quickly along with when we're going to go back to regular hours at resident services?
So on the first point, right now we have appointment by appointment only with regards to resident services, and whether it's because of the COVID or not, we actually have a lot of openings with regards to people having appointments. So we're going to try to continue the appointment basis because it makes it much more efficient with regards to our operation here. And so we just need to continue to get the word out with regards to people making appointments. But we have plenty of vacancies in the sense or times available for residents to make an appointment to come in to resident services. We haven't had a problem with regards to having too many residents come in. So I don't know if that's just because of COVID or people are getting used to calling us or going online and getting their work done that way. but we want to continue to make it available to them. We think that the reservation system has worked pretty well so far, and because of the fact that we have capacity there, and we'll continue to look. If we ever get to a point where we don't have enough capacity in there, then we'll have to look at a different style of operation. On the pool, we're continuing to evaluate the pool reservation process and trying to get the right staffing so that we can open up the capacity of the pools as we get it. One of the big consternations that we've had is that pool 1 has been closed due to a boiler situation, so we don't have any hot water there or warm water. So it's it's anticipated that in June we'll have that boiler finally here, and it just got the boiler process normally is a lot quicker than what we've seen this time, and the reason why when we got into the details was that the boilers have to be approved by a federal inspection process, so they can't get out of the plant. It's not that they aren't being produced, it's just that they can't get out of the plant until they get inspected and approved before they can be shipped and put into operation. So that's put us behind several weeks in getting pool 1 fixed. But once we have pool 1 fixed, then we'll be back into our full-blown operation with regards to our pools.
Thank you.
Thank you. Director Karimi, you had a question?
Thank you, Madam President. My question or comment is about the reopening and staffing. One of the issues that most of the department are facing is shortness of staff. We don't have enough staff for the full reopening. What is our plan? I know that in about 4 weeks we're going to open the village, but if we don't have a staff, people expectation is not going to be met, and how we're going to deal with that. I appreciate if I get some comment from Jeff or Siobhan on how we're going to deal with it.
It's a really good question, Reza. We are in all full go mode to hire part-time recreation staff to fill the void that we have with regards to opening up all of the clubhouses and working with the clubs and seeing what type of activities they're going to be using, assuming they go back into the same operation that they were before. So we have actually our internal HR staff working on it, but we've also hired outside employment agencies to help us hire part-time. Part-time employment is very difficult if you probably have read throughout everywhere, so we are struggle. We are also looking at part-time employment in the village too, to see if we have residents here that would be interested in some part-time employment. So we're going to do a kind of a combination so that we can open it up. One of the activities and kind of remanaging is one of the issues that Siobhan brought up was that during the COVID we had this coin operation. Well, this coin operation took recreation people away from their normal duties. So that's one of the reasons why now that the banks are back open, we're no longer going to continue that so that we can get staffing back into our normal HR. So we are still geared up and still gearing up that we're going to be ready to go come July, assuming that the state goes forward with their approval in mid to late June with regards to reopening.
Thank you.
Are there any other director questions for Jeff or Siobhan? Debbie.
Sorry, I have one more question then. Jeff, one of the things I've heard out in the street is that residents are willing to volunteer to help with reopening things. Have we considered some type of temporary volunteer program beyond Clubhouse 4? I know that we're using volunteers there, but particularly, again, the pool situation and the reservations, because, you know, and maybe through a volunteer program, we would find those part-time employees because maybe they would come and volunteer and then think, okay, this isn't so bad. Maybe I'll do this for part-time work. But I've heard more than one person say that they're willing to volunteer to help reopen our facilities, and that could be a potential temporary solution while we look for part-timers.
It's a very good comment, Debbie. For those that don't know, we use volunteers that help us manage people over at the Clubhouse 4 to just oversee some of the programs. So the concept of looking at that potentially at our pools or some other activities that we might have, that clearly is something that we're going to evaluate, and it's an excellent idea, so thank you for that. One of the biggest challenges flatly with regards to the part-time recreation positions is a lot of these positions have to set up chairs, set up tables, heavy lifting, and oftentimes it's difficult to find people who can maintain that kind of heavy lifting and job responsibility. So one of the other things that we're also looking at is there a way that we maybe be able to put in certain tables and chairs in certain circumstances where we don't have to take them down, set them up, take them down, and just keep a reuse program in there with regards to the different activities. So we're evaluating all kinds of things to make sure that we can reopen the best we can.
Thank you, Jeff. Are there any other director questions for Jeff or Siobhan? Okay, seeing none. The next item on the agenda is the consent calendar. All matters listed under the consent calendar are recommended for action by committees and will be enacted by the board by one motion. In the event an item is removed from the consent calendar by members of the board, such items shall be the subject of further discussion and action by the board. So I would like to entertain a motion to approve the consent calendar. Director Munchnick makes the motion. Is there a second? Okay, Director Donna, second. Are there any comments? Any discussion on the consent calendar? Hearing none, then the consent calendar is approved by consensus. The next item on the agenda, I lost my spot here. The next item is agenda item number 11, any unfinished business. There is no unfinished business. So then we move to new business. Agenda item number 12. Director Jarrett, will you be speaking on the new business, agenda item 12A and B?
Okay. Let's see. Thank you, Vice President McCary. 12A, we're going to entertain a motion to approve the 2021 annual election schedule and resolution to appoint the inspector of elections. Just one moment, please. I'll read the resolution to approve the inspector of election services. Whereas Civil Code 5110 requires an association to select an independent third party or parties as an inspector of elections. And whereas in accordance with Civil Code 5110, 5115, 5120, and 5125, the inspector of elections performs several tasks during an election, including but not limited to print and mail voter packages, inspect and tabulate ballots, and certify results. Now, therefore, be it resolved, May the 18th, 2021, that the Board of Directors of Laguna Hills Mutual hereby approves single sourcing a contract to Unilect Corporation to perform Inspector of Election Services for the 2021 annual meeting of the members, and resolve further that the officers and agents of this corporation are directed on behalf of the corporation to carry out this resolution. With that, too much paper this morning. So with that, do I hear a motion to approve this resolution? Robert?
And Donna.
Okay, Annie.
Okay, Donna, second.
You need to call for the vote, Annie, I'm sorry.
Okay, so it's been moved in second to approve this motion. Is there any discussion? Any opposition to this motion? Hearing no opposition on this motion, then the motion passes by consensus. Thank you, Director Jarrett.
All right. To entertain a motion to approve limited pilot program for 5 avert devices. This recommendation is made by the Security and Community Access Committee for JRF of Laguna Woods and recommends that 3rd Laguna Hills Mutual adopt a limited fire prevention pilot program with the purchase and installation of 6 fire avert devices. This is to brief, I'll give you a little background. In January 2014 to August 2018, there were 58 documented kitchen fires or kitchen-related smoke incidents in the village requiring a response by the Orange County Fire Authority. Of the 58 kitchen incidents, 46% of the residents had left the stove unattended and 36% had left the residence with the stove or the oven on. Only 17% of the residents were actually in the kitchen when the incident occurred. In review of each incident, the leading causes of fire and smoke were attributed to unattended foods, cooking on the stove, and/or placing perishable items on a hot stove. Damage ranged from minor smoke to complete destruction of the kitchen and nearby rooms. I will read you the resolution for this. The resolution is the limited pilot program for avert devices. This is what the committee came up with. Whereas from January 2014 to August 2018, there were 58 documented fires or kitchen-related incidents in the village requiring a response by the Orange County Fire Authority. Whereas the Disaster Preparedness Task Force and Security and Community Access Committee have recognized the need to offer a fire prevention device called Fire Avert. And whereas Fire Avert is a product connected to the power cord of the kitchen stove, and through smoke alarm sound detection, Fire Avert turns off the power to the stove, immediately turning off the burner. Now therefore be it resolved on May 18, 2021, that per the recommendation of the GRF Security and Community Access Committee, 3rd Laguna Hills Mutual adopts a limited pilot program for the purchase and installation of 6 fire prevention devices, and resolve further that the officers and agents of this corporation are hereby authorized on behalf of the corporation to carry out the purposes of this resolution. Is there a motion to approve this resolution?
Okay, Debbie, no, okay. Is there a second? Donna, second. Is there any discussion regarding this this agenda item? Any discussion? Okay. Any opposition to approving this this motion? Okay. Hearing or seeing no opposition, then this motion by consensus is passed. The next item, go ahead, Director Jack.
Okay, item 12C, to entertain a motion to introduce amendment to the hate policy. The Resident Policy and Compliance Committee decided it was time to dust off, update, and amend our anti-hate policy approved in 2006. That's a long time ago. Times have changed. In light of our own growing Asian population here in Laguna Woods Village, and all the hate that is going on in our country in the recent past and only growing, excuse me, we believe we needed to amend this outdated policy to let people know that acts of hate in our diverse population here will not be tolerated. This is in step with the county that recently issued resolutions condemning acts of hate. It is also in lockstep with our state of California when just 6 days ago, our state attorney general, Bonta, announced the creation of a racial justice bureau to combat white supremacy and bias policing, as well as to explore the possibility of reparations for slavery. movement emerges during the pandemic where Asian Americans have increasingly been attacked, both verbally and physically, in part because of the mistaken belief that they brought the coronavirus to this country. All people in our community, along with all communities, deserve to be valued and protected. I want to mention that there was an error on agenda item 12C, page 3 of 6, which needs to be changed immediately. I talked to the compliance department this morning, and it indicates that we need, the new resolution is the hate policy, not anti-hate. That's what the committee decided. Anyway, I make a motion to introduce this amendment to the hate policy, which must be postponed for 28 days for member review of comment to comply with Civil Code 4360. We need a second, but we do not need a vote today because that's going to be on 28-day review.
So Director Dotson, second. And as Director Jarrett said, this will go on a 28-day review for member comment. Thank you, Director Jarrett.
That's it. Thank you.
Moving along to the next agenda item, 13, committee reports. We'll start with the report of the Finance Committee. Director Mushnick.
Thank you very much, Director McCary. I'm pleased to share with you the figures that we have for the month of March 2021. This is the first month that I am able to report to you monthly comparisons for the first 3 months of 2021, January, February, and March. Grant, if you would please put up slide number 2. We'll start there. Skip that one and go right to the next slide, please. Thank you. This slide depicts income for Third Mutual for the last 3 months, January, February, and March. Assessment revenue year to date at the end of March, as you can see from the far left-hand side of the chart, is $8,650,000, which is just $2,883,000 more than was reported income for February. As you'll note from the far left-hand side, the 3 bars, we are averaging exactly that, $2,833,000 per month, which is exactly what we would expect the income to be every month. So we continue to be right on target. Non-assessment revenue is a negative $60,000. I'm looking at now the 3 bars, the second 3 bars from the left-hand side. This is explained by the results of continued unrealized loss of $607,000 on our AFS investments. As I reported to you last month, the third board has taken steps to stem the tide of the losses on our investments. We have since moved all of our investments out of bond funds and into short-term treasuries. Adding together the assessment revenue and the non-assessment revenue for the first 3 months, our total revenue, if you go to the bars in the middle of the page, is $8,507,000. Okay. Now, looking at the set of bars second from the right of the slide, for the cumulative months of January, February, and March, Third had $7,194,000 in total expenses. This is an increase of $2,528,000 in expenses for the month of March over February. Now, looking at the bar graphs on the far right of the chart, Third Mutual had a net revenue of $1,313,000 for the 3 months ending March 31st. This is up an additional $294,000 from the previous month of February. Again, keep in mind, net revenue was negatively impacted by the loss on our investments, which, as I indicated previously, we believe we have begun to address. Next slide, please, Grant. This slide represents data for income for the operating fund only for the 3 months ending March 31st. Looking at the bar graphs at the far left of this chart, assessment revenue over the most recent 31 days of March was $1,747,000, exactly the same for each of the previous 2 months. Now, shifting your gaze to the second set of bar graphs from the left, non-assessment revenue. This increased by $131,000. For the 3-month period at the end of March, we had a total non-assessment revenue of $353,000. Now, looking at the set of bar graphs, third from the right, in the middle of the page, Third Mutual had a grand total revenue in the operating fund of $1,878,000 for the month of March. Adding January, February, and March together, total revenue for the operating fund only for 2021 so far is $5,595,000. Now, looking at the bar graphs second from the right side of the chart, total expenses during this same period for the operating fund of January, February, and March was $4,989,000, an increase in total expenses for the past month of $2,069,000. Subtracting total expenses year to date from total revenue year to date takes us to the bar graph on the far right, which leaves us now with a positive variance of $606,000 for the 3 months ending March 31st. Grant, can I have the next slide, please? This slide compares our actual revenues and expenses to what was originally budgeted. Looking at non-assessment revenue, the second set of bar graphs from the left, the actual is in red, the budgeted is in green, while the variance is in yellow. The non-assessment revenue had a negative variance of $682,000 of actual over budgeted for year to date at the end of March. This negative variance, again, is due in large part to the variance I discussed in the previous slides with the adverse conditions for bond investments. Now, looking at the bar graphs in the second from the right, total expense, one can see that our actual expenses year to date were $1,224,000 less than budgeted. Shifting your gaze to the bar graphs on the far right, Third Mutual is left with a $542,000 revenue over expenses for year to date ending 3/31/21, in other words, the end of March. Grant, next slide, please. As I show you every month, this slide provides you with a picture of select budget items and the current variance associated with each for the month of March. You also have the opportunity to see how each of these variances compares to the variance for each category at the end of both January and February. The top bar in each category, which are green, represent the variances at the end of January, while the middle bars, which are gold, represent the dollar amount of the variance for each category at the end of February. And finally, the bottom bar in each category, the brown bars, represent this reporting period, March. As you can see, looking only at the brown bars, which are the most significant for Third at this moment in time, Third continues to have favorable variances for each of the categories for outside service, employee compensation, materials and supplies, and lastly, other operating for the period ending March 31st. There has been a positive variance in each of these categories for the past 3 months. The last 3 categories each continue to have an unfavorable variance. There has been an increase in the usage of water and electricity that has continued to cause the current negative variance in that category, utilities and telephone. The issue with insurance is one that we've talked about regularly for months, and as you know, the board is working very hard to try to address this moving forward. One way we are trying to address this is the pressing issue with the ballot initiative that hopefully you are all aware of. Later this week, as we mentioned earlier in this meeting, we will be hosting a town hall on insurance, at which we will be available to answer all of your questions related to the insurance issue and to the ballot. That's this Friday, 9:30 a.m. With regard to investments, with the very low, almost non-existent interest rates on our bond investments, there's been a loss of $607,000 year to date. And again, as I've shared with you earlier in this presentation, the board has recently taken steps to stem the losses on investments by making changes to the specific type of investments that Third holds. Next slide, please. This slide depicts 2 charts for comparison purposes. month over month, again, for total non-assessment revenue. However, these pie charts exclude unrealized loss on AFS investments. That's our investments I've talked about. Now, when we compare the two charts, the revenue month over month for each category is fairly similar. However, looking at the pie chart for the end of March, overall, we had a negative variance for this month. This negative variance has been explained earlier in this presentation. Next slide, please. Third had additional expenses of $2,528,037, which is actually just slightly more than our expenses for February, for a total year-to-date expenses of $7,194,202. For those who continue to ask about the cost of our legal fees, because if you look down, our legal fees are approximately 2%. They've stabilized at about 2%. When viewing the category of legal fees, as I reminded you last month, please keep in mind when we speak about Third's legal expenses, this is a category that not only includes our expenses for the services of the legal team to Third Board, but also includes our share of VMS legal expenses that Third is obligated to pay. What this category does not include is monies that Third receives as reimbursements from insurance companies and/or legal settlement offsets. I'm working with the current Director of Finance to rectify this presentation and hope to have a more accurate picture as it relates to actual legal expenses at the next Third Finance Committee meeting. Next slide, please. For this slide, as always, I like to direct you to look first at the lower right-hand corner. As of the 28th of February, that's last month, Third had in this category, the lower right-hand corner, Third had $29,322,000 in reserves and the disaster fund. As of the end of March, as you can see, we now have $29,818,000, which represents an increase of just under $500,000 in assets, okay, as reflected in the replacement fund. Most of that is in the replacement fund. The replacement fund at the end of March, as you can, was up to $18,540,000, an increase of $456,000, okay, over the previous month in this category. Also, it should be noted that year-to-date, Third had $2,913,000 in contributions and interest added to these funds, while we had $2,173,000 in expenditures. You can see those two categories on the far right under the total column, the $2,913,000 in contributions and interest, and then the third row down under total $2,173,000 in expenditures. Okay, so this is where the additional money comes in terms of our current balance. So right now, we're moving in the right direction in terms of our reserves and disaster fund. Next slide, please. This slide compares the different fund balances for the past 5 years, which have averaged approximately $29.2 million per year. As you can see from the slide, even though there have been some unexpected losses in our investments, we are still basically holding our own overall when compared to the fund balance last year. Next slide, please. This slide provides you with a picture of the resale situation for Third for the past 3 years. As I told you last month, January with 42 resales, represented the best January in the last 3 years, while February with 30 resales also represented the best February in the last 3 years. Now, March with 44 resales also represents the best March for the past 3 years. So basically, for January, February, March, we've seen our resales increase fairly dramatically, especially over last year. This year, we currently have total to date approximately 115 resales, which is an increase of 33 for the same time period last year. Normally now, I would point you to the top right-hand corner of the slide to see dollar-wise how we compare to average sales year to date. However, the figures in this slide in the top right-hand corner relating to average sales is not correct. Let me give you the correct figures for 2021, year to date, ending March 31st. The average sale price per manor for the first 3 months of 2021 is actually $441,749, a very slight increase over the same period last year, which you can see was just about a little over $1,000 less. All right, that concludes the Treasurer's report for this month. Our next Finance Committee meeting is scheduled for Tuesday, June 1st at 1:30, and it will most likely be a virtual meeting. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Director Munchnick. The next committee report is report of the Architectural Control and Standards Committee. I believe that's going to be Director Engdahl. And you're muted. Can you unmute Director Engdahl? Director Engdahl, you're muted. We can't.
I found it. Okay. I don't have much to report new other than what's been already addressed on some of the other programs. I would like to draw attention to one program that we discussed that has been approved as a temporary project or temporary program on the use of a device which has been designed to sense whether there's a fire going on in the residence anywhere and actually cut off the power to the stove, because most of our stoves in our area, I think with very few limitations, are electric. And if there's any sensing of a fire, it will act to shut the electricity off in the event the stove is left on and a fire starts on the stove. Other than that, that was the meeting of April 26th. Our next meeting is next Monday, May 24th. Sorry, that was April 26th. Next meeting is Monday, May 24th, 9:30 in the morning. It'll be a virtual meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Engel. The next committee report is report of the Communications Committee, and that would be me. The committee last met January 13th, 2021. It was a virtual meeting. The next meeting is scheduled for July 14th at 1:30 p.m., also a virtual meeting. The next committee report is a report of the Maintenance and Construction Committee. Director Munchnick.
Thank you. The M&C Committee met on Monday, the 3rd of May. At the March meeting, the M&C Committee, I know I'm going backwards, but at the March meeting, the M&C Committee recommended the replacement of trash chute doors at Building 3486. And that was recommended to the full board for approval, which they did approve. And I'm pleased to report that the contract has been let to replace the trash chute doors that were installed years ago. The problem was when they were originally installed years ago, they were installed at an inoperable height. They were much too high for the residents to be able to open the door and also put the trash into the trash chute. So I want to thank the residents of the 2nd and 3rd floor of Building 3486 for their patience as this issue is being resolved. I'm told by one of the residents that the contractor for the repair has already been on site and is taking measurements. So hopefully that this issue that they've been very patient about will be resolved in the near future. The M&C Committee at its most recent meeting considered a proposal for Manor Alterations Department regarding adding employees to facilitate the permitting process. While the M&C Committee does understand the need of manor alterations, any decisions regarding the addition of employees will need to be taken into the context of the overall financial situation of Third as we move through the budgeting process. So that is something while we'll still consider, but it's got to be financially feasible in terms of the overall issue for Third as we move forward. As many of you remember from previous discussions about M&C activity, Senate Bill 326, which addresses load-bearing component inspections, is something the village is obligated to address. In case you are new to California, Senate Bill 326 was passed as a result of a very serious accident that took place in the San Francisco area a number of years ago. A balcony holding a large number of people collapsed and crushed the balconies below it as it fell. A number of individuals died and a greater number of individuals were injured. The structural integrity of balconies is to be addressed by this new bill. We will need to contract for the services of a structural engineer in the next year to begin the inspection process. The VMS maintenance folks are of the opinion that given the inspections and repairs we will already undertake, that meeting our obligations under Senate Bill 326 should not be a major problem, but still something that we're required to undertake. And the committee, at its most recent meeting, received an updated report on solar production for third, and the production continues to be on par for the first 3 months of 2021 when compared to 2020. In terms of our other projects, there are a number of large-scale projects underway, such as waistline remediation, for which we thank the residents of the buildings for their cooperation, where these projects are impacting their daily lives. The next meeting of the M&C Committee is scheduled for July 7th at 1:30 p.m., and that is expected to be a virtual meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Munchnick. The next report is report of the Parking and Golf Cart Subcommittee. Director Dodson.
Yes, hi. We had a meeting on May 14th, and we had, basically, we were just discussing the upcoming potential for the EV grant. It's still, we're kind of in a holding pattern. We're waiting for SCE to open the grant. So we've identified potential spots, but again, we still have a long way to go on that project. We do not have another meeting scheduled yet because we're kind of waiting for SCE to open up the grant so that we can have further discussion. We also, we spoke about some parking policies, and it was determined at this time that we're not going to move forward with a golf cart parking policy for the Garden Villa buildings. That had been something we discussed. And that's it. We will let you know when the next meeting is, and it will be a virtual meeting.
Thank you, Director Dodson. Moving along to Garden Villa Rec Room Subcommittee, Director Jarrett. You're muted.
Sorry. Thank you, Vice President McCary. We had our last meeting was on February 23rd, which I already gave a report on, but we are going to meet again June the 8th at 1:30 p.m. as a virtual meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Jarrett. Now, if you will give us a report of the Landscape Committee.
Okay, the Landscape Committee met recently and approved 3 tree requests that have been addressed by the board today on the consent calendar. The VMS Landscape Director reported that there are several new foremen hitting it out of the park. Younger people are being trained to eventually replace older employees when they retire. Perhaps that's the reason that several residents sent or called in praises for the landscape staff, because they are making the most of the staff that they have. The director shared a short PowerPoint slide with the committee regarding progress made in landscaping tickets and trim cycles. He reported that staff is way ahead on trim cycles for now. He also reviewed the project log and the tree status report with the committee. He reported that there was a pump failure a few weekends ago in Third Mutual, and the El Toro Water District had to take the system offline. Unfortunately, we weren't notified ahead of time, and some valves stuck when the pump was turned back on, causing some overwatering. So those of you who live in the 8, 9, and 10 gate areas, you probably noticed a lot of water that weekend we lost. Anyway, the Water District has now promised that they would inform us ahead of time in the future when there is a need to take a system offline. Let me remind you that all landscape requests should be sent by email or by phoning resident services. The next meeting will be held at June 28th at 9:30 a.m. We can't meet on the first Thursday next month as we usually do because of the budget scheduling. So we'll be on June the 8th. This is coming up. And thank you very much.
Thank you, Director Jarrett. The next agenda item is report of the Water Committee. Director Donna Rains-Solstek.
Thank you, Director McCary. The Water Committee met on April 29th, and as you can imagine, we have great concerns because the water bill for Third Mutual is approaching $3 million a year. Water is a big concern. 100% of our drinking water is imported from somewhere else, and the cost of transporting water such great distances is just very expensive. In addition to our concerns that we discussed at the meeting, shortly after that, the Community Advisory Group of El Toro Water District held a meeting where we learned that there is an anticipated increase in our water bills. So at this point, water is clearly a major concern, as it's always been, but now even more so. We are very fortunate to have two directors of El Toro Water District as residents of Laguna Woods and as very active participants in our water committee. So we look forward to a year of collaboration and trying to find ways to keep our bills a little lower. We're going to have several programs throughout the year that haven't been scheduled yet, informative to help residents see what they can do and what role they can play in decreasing our water consumption and therefore our water bill. And just very quickly, when we get our water bill, there are 4 tiers. Just like when you see your own electric bill, you don't see our water bill, but you see your electric bill. And on the electric bill, you know, there's tier 1, there's 2, there's the standard usage, there's excessive usage, there's a little bit more in between. Well, with the water bill, with those increases that are coming up, the higher tiers, the excessive use, the more than average use, are the ones that are going to really, really impact us even more than those for the basic standard, which, by the way, it used to be they allowed 55 gallons of water per resident per day. That was kind of the original allotment anticipated. Now it's 45. So that tier 1 is going to shrink. And not only are the expenses in tiers 2, 3, and 4 going to go up, but they're going to go up in far greater proportion. So we really all need to do what we can. And again, as I mentioned, we're going to have some programs throughout the year, but please, to all residents of not only Third Mutual, but of any other
you were frozen there, Donna.
We're away for 2 months, so we knew it wasn't
Donna,
we called the village, and it turned out there was a water.
Excuse me, Donna, we missed part of what you were saying because your screen froze. And now you're muted.
And now I'm unmuted. Let's hope it stays that way. But any residents who get a letter that says they've got excessive usage, if you think you do, look at where you're using it and ways you can decrease. You're using water.
She's losing connection. Give her another minute or so.
Maybe she should turn on her camera.
Can you hear us now, Donna?
Turn off my camera. I can hear you.
Okay.
Does that help you?
Yes, go ahead.
My camera's off? Okay. Where did you lose me? With my first sentence, or?
Just pick up where you think you left off. I can't remember.
I think I'll just shorten it, given the problems, just to say, please, if you get a letter that says you've got excessive use, notify the village. It may be something that's got to do with a line, not you. If you have a medical condition that requires you to use more water, like a walk-in bathtub, then contacting El Toro Water District, you might be able to get a special rebate, or not rebate, but rate reduction that would help all of us. So water is really all of our responsibility. Sorry that my connection right now is.
Okay, can you hear us, Donna? Okay, I think she mentioned that she was finishing up her report. So thank you, Director Donna, if you can hear us.
I can.
Okay. Were you done, Donna? Because you faded out again. Okay, so we'll move on now to report of the Resident Policy and Compliance Committee, Director Jarrett.
Before I give that as my report, which is very small, I just want to, I don't know that Donna mentioned what the percentage of the water bill increase is going to be this year. It's going to be over 4%. So if you multiply that out by $2.9 million, our water's really going up. So I'm not sure that she mentioned that because she had technical issues. Anyway, the Resident Policy and Compliance Committee met on May the 5th and worked on amending the 2006 hate resolution of 2006 of that year. Anyway, we realized there was need of amending, and today, thank you, board, you approved that policy, amendment to the policy for a 28-day review. The next meeting is yet to be determined, but we'll announce it ahead of time. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Jarrett. The next agenda item, we move down to GRF Committee highlights. Community Activities Committee, Director Karimi. Can you hear us, Director Karimi? Okay, we may have to come back to Director Karimi if he's having some difficulty.
Hello? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Actually, you know, a report or a study released by Stanford University about the Zoom meeting, that the country have fatigue with the Zoom meeting and they're ready to get out and have a face-to-face meeting. And this meeting with the broadband being flooded, causing a lot of problem for the communication on the Zoom anyway. But anyway, that's beside the point. The Community Activity Committee met on May 13 at 1:30. Most of the issues that we discussed was covered by the CEO report, and pretty much the major issue that they and the stage reopening of the community, and to accomplish this task, those are the two major issues. The other issues that was discussed was about the fees and the budget for the next year. There was a lot of discussion, but no decision have been made, so there is no report on that. The Equestrian Center, they had a lot of, installed a lot of safety items for the horses and for the riders. They installed some solar lights. So, it's a nice area now. Other than that, reservation for the tea time for the skiing game is going pretty good also. But the rest of the reopening and facility reopening was discussed, and I'm not going to go over that again, that Jeff discussed. Next meeting is June 10 and 1:30.
Thank you, Director Karimi. Now the Equestrian Center Ad Hoc Committee, Director Bada. Director Bada, can you hear us?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I thought I had my audio on. I hope I'm coming through clearly.
Yes.
Kept my video off so I don't lose my audio too. The meeting of the Equestrian Ad Hoc Committee was held on May 6th, 2021. We had a good meeting. I was able to attend most of it. I missed the first part. My apologies for that. But from the latter part of the meeting, I gather that the stalls were painted again, and they look really nice. Everybody enjoys it. They have started a third feeding for the horses, and that is making the horses and the staff very happy because they see a great progress in how the horses look. That there were other items discussed earlier. There was a rat abatement program which is being handled by our staff, and it's getting there. And they are searching for new lesson programs for the horses that they can provide to staff. I mean, the residents who want to use the horses. The next meeting is on July the 7th, and it will be at 1 p.m. in the afternoon. Thank you, and that's all for my report.
Thank you, Director Bada. The next report is the GRF Finance Committee, Director Munchnick.
Thank you. The GRF Finance Committee met most recently on the 21st of April. A member of Third Mutual at that time raised questions about the types of investments GRF was using and whether or not they met the guidelines of Davis Sterling. Specifically, the question addressed the use of treasury-backed bonds, CDs, or other government-backed securities, as opposed to the bond funds in which GRF currently invests. Jim Hopkins, chair of the GRF Finance Committee, did address the inquiry by the member and indicated in the end that a deep dive into legal issues surrounding the claims would be undertaken. Carl Randazzo from United Mutual, who's also a member of the GRF Finance Committee, raised some questions about the income from broadband with regards to premium channels, which apparently is decreasing. His belief is that the decrease is in part due to the easy access that people have to other streaming options. So there was some questions raised about how that can be addressed and improved. During the GRF Finance Committee meeting, we received a report on the GRF vehicle replacement procedure. Currently, we have 412 different vehicles. 142 of them have been determined that they need to be replaced. The plan is to replace 33 vehicles per year during each of the next 5 years. Cost for this program is based on the type of vehicle that is to be replaced and what year it's to be replaced within the next 5. Discussion about the need for whether or not we need to have so many vehicles took place. In terms of finances, GRF had total revenue for the period ending March 31st of $10,297,000 compared to a budgeted revenue of $11,029,000 for that same period. Therefore, there was a negative variance of $731,000 of total revenue for the 3-month period ending 31 March. However, on the good news side, there was only $9,867,000 in actual expenses, compared to $10,769,000 in budgeted expenses for this 3-month period. In this case, there's a positive variance of $902,000 in less than budgeted expenses. Overall, from a budgeted perspective, when one compares total revenue to total expenses, there was a positive variance of $171,000 for GRF for the 3-month period ending March 31st. The next meeting of the GRF Finance Committee is the 23rd of June at 1:30, and it's anticipated it will also be a virtual meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Munchnick. The GRF Landscape Committee, Director Jarrett.
Yes, the last meeting was held on March the 10th, and I reported on that meeting last month. The next meeting will be June the 9th, virtual meeting at 1:30 p.m. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Jarrett. The GRF Maintenance and Construction Committee, Director Frankel.
We are continuing to meet in an attempt to address the fact that the budget for the driving range is extremely high, over $600,000. We have not met since my last report, for the Third Mutual. However, we did have a meeting on site for the driving range, and we have another consultant who is attempting to address the fact that we feel that the grading and the landscaping and the water issue can be lowered, and we're working on that. And so the next meeting is June 9th.
Thank you, Director Franco. Clubhouse 1 Renovation Ad Hoc Committee, Director Engel.
Getting this unmute button down in the wrong corner and I can't find it. Nothing to report on the Clubhouse One activity since last week, or last month rather, when I gave a pretty good position on it. The next meeting is still to be determined.
Thank you, Director Engel. The next item, agenda item, is the Media and Communications Committee, and I have some notes on that. The committee met on Monday, yesterday, May 17th at 1:30 p.m. It was a virtual meeting. First of all, the April-May edition of the Village Breeze is out, if you can see, and we were treated with the information that on the cover of the Breeze is an actual golden rain tree. So it's a beautiful tree. So thank you to Media and Communications for that photograph. And it's got lots of information. So it is the April, May, June issue. And if you have not received your issue of it, if you could please just contact the Media and Communication Department. Eileen Pollan also reported that the flu vaccination clinic was the last of the flu vaccine clinics was held this Friday. She also reported that close to 19,000 injections were given by the Memorial Care staff. She also reported on the Manor Alteration newsletter. It seems to be going very well, and this is circulated 2 times a month, and they've been getting some good reviews on that. Eileen also reported that funds to renovate the website will be included in the 2022 budget, as well as funds for a village-wide survey. Paul Ortiz also gave a presentation with some of the highlights about village television, and he reports that nearly all village TV content can be found if you miss something by easily going to YouTube, and you can just type in, go to YouTube and search Village TV, and you'll be able to find all of the programs that were aired. In addition, Paul also reported that in accordance with the broadband multi-year efforts to eliminate analog and duplicate standard definition channels, Village TV will no longer be available in analog or standard definition format. Viewers are encouraged to view television channels 405 for set-top box subscribers and channel 6.1 for digital television. Paul also gave a report on some of the programs that will be expiring by the end of the year, and some of those include KNBC, Oxygen, the Golf Channel, Bravo, CNBC. Also, I apologize, my iPad just went dead. So that's anything that I've missed, I will bring it up at the next committee meeting. Again, my iPad went dead and I can't get the rest of my notes. So that is the end of my report. The next item, agenda item F, Mobility and Vehicles Committee, Director Karimi.
Thank you, Vice President. The Mobility Vehicle Committee meeting was, which I reported in the last meeting. The next meeting is June 2nd at 1:30 p.m. in the virtual. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Karimi. Security and Community Access, Director Bada.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Our meeting was on April 26, 2021 at 1:30 p.m. Several items were discussed. Some of the highlights of the meeting was the fire avert, which we have discussed a lot today. It was initially approved at the security committee meeting, which later traveled to all the different committees to come to our board meeting today for final approval for the pilot program. It seems like a terrific program, and it will be a good addition to our village. The next item that we discussed was the Gate 12, which is the entrance to Club 19 and Clubhouse 2. There was a request to upgrade the gatehouse and the security at the gate, and that is what was approved over there. And it is not to put a gate arm, but to just improve the security at the gate. That is all that I have to report today at our meeting. The next one is going to be June 28th at 1:30 p.m. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Bada. The next item is the Disaster Preparedness Task Force. The task force did meet on March 30th. I did give a report. And so the next meeting date is May 25th, 2021 at 9:30, and it will be a virtual meeting. Let's see, moving on to report of the Laguna Woods Village traffic hearing. Director Frankel?
We only had 4 violations at the last meeting, and for the meeting that's going to be tomorrow, there are only 4. I'm not sure why the number of violations used to run 12, 15, or 20 each month. I'm not sure why the number of violations is down, but that's good news. So at the last meeting, there were 4 violations, a decal violation, a vehicle was used for storage, an expired registration, and there was an abandoned vehicle. All of the violations were found, all of the violators were found guilty. Some gave an adequate excuse, and there was no fine. And that completes my report. Oh, and the meeting is tomorrow again for tomorrow's traffic meeting.
Thank you, Director Frankel. Director Munchnick?
Yes, I have a question for Director Frankel. Director Frankel, I just want to make sure, that's 4 violations. Those are people who contested the violations. There were other violations that people just paid their fines, correct?
That's correct.
So I don't want the listening public to think that there were only a total of 4 violations handed out.
Thank you. The next agenda item is GRF Strategic Planning and Ad Hoc Committee. Director Munchnick.
Okay, thank you. I'm sorry to report, once again, the committee last met on the 17th of March. There has been nothing new to report as of this date, and there has been no date or time set for any future meetings. So at this moment, the Strategic Planning and Ad Hoc Committee seems to have very little, if no life left in it at the moment.
Okay. Thank you, Director Munchnick. The next item in the agenda item J, budget meeting. Director Munchnick.
Okay. Jeff Parker in his CEO presentation touched on this, but I want to go ahead and give everybody a few more dates and make sure they have the opportunity to write these down. Currently, the following workshops for budget preparation are scheduled for 3rd as follows. Wednesday, June 2nd, maintenance and construction at 9:30. Thursday, June 3rd, landscape review at 1:30. Friday, July 16th, is the business plan review at 9:30. Friday, August 13th, is the business plan review for 3rd. That will be televised at 9:30 in the morning. And finally, Tuesday, September 21st, which was a regularly scheduled board meeting for 3rd Mutual, the business plan will be adopted on that day. So those are the dates we have for all the different activities related to not only budget preparation, but budget approval, budget acceptance, and adoption. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Munchnick. The next agenda item 15, future agenda items. All matters listed under future agenda items or items for future board meetings. No action will be taken by the board on these agenda items at this meeting. The board will take action on these items at future board meetings. And what we have for future agenda items are residential suggestion program, alterations review, property and casualty insurance, and a presentation from the El Toro Water District. Are there any other recommendations for future agenda items? Seeing none, okay. We're moving right along to agenda item 16, director comments. So I'll start at the top of the screen and I will go with Director Dobson.
No comment. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Director Munchnick?
I've said more than enough, thank you.
Thank you. Director Frankel?
I'll pass, thank you.
Thank you. Director Engel?
No comment, thank you.
Director Craig Wayne?
No comment, thank you.
Director Donna, can you hear us?
Yes, yes, and no comment, thank you.
Okay. Director Jarrett?
Yes, I do want to make a comment. Today, I was very happy to see that we passed that pilot program for the Security and Access Committee. I mean, I think that's terrific. I just want to remind people, and some of you may not know because you're newer to the community, but I think we had the large fire at 3480. The fire we've had, the biggest fire that we had in the village was about 2010, and it was in a three-story building, 3486, and it was started in a third floor in the middle of the unit of this building. It was started as a kitchen fire, and a caregiver had stepped out for a little bit, and the lady that lived there put the stove on, and anyway, it was a really big deal. It was over $1 million worth of damage to the building. So I'm just saying, in case, a little history for you. So I think that pilot program is great. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Jarrett. Director Karimi?
No comment, thank you. I'm just going to ask if there is a plan for participating in this meeting when the village is open, or is all going to be Zoom meeting?
I don't have an answer for that, Director Karimi, but it's something that warrants some future discussion. So we can have a discussion about it. I don't have an answer for that.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Director Bada?
No, thank you. Everything's good.
Thank you. Did I miss any directors? Okay. So our CEO, Jeff Parker, any last comments?
No, nothing. Thank you.
Annie?
Oh, I'm sorry. Did I miss John Frankel? Thank you.
No, I just had a last comment. I wanted to thank Director Muchnick for his response to the email that I sent him regarding resident Hearst and the insurance issue. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Director Franco, and my apologies for overlooking you. Siobhan, any last comments?
No, thank you, Annie.
Eileen Pollan, any comments? Or Cheryl Silver, any last comments?
You did a great job, Annie, today. Thank you.
No comment. Sorry, Annie. My mute button was down at the bottom of my screen.
Okay, thank you. So hearing no other, I just have one director comment, and that is just to remind the residents about the upcoming town hall meeting, the one that's coming up this Friday at 9:30, and it will be televised on TV6. It is a town hall meeting. We will be talking with residents who call in, and we will also be answering some of the questions that we've already received via email. So we really encourage you to watch the meeting and join us if you have the time. And again, that's going to be the first town hall meeting is going to be this Friday at 9:30 in the morning. And with that,
wait. Are they going to record the town hall, and will it be on village television so that if you miss it? Okay, good.
Yes. Thank you for that reminder, Director Dawson. Yes. So if there are no additional comments, agenda item 17, at this time, the meeting will recess for lunch and reconvene at executive session to discuss executive issues. It is 11:20 now. We can reconvene at 12 o'clock. We will reconvene at 12 o'clock, and this link will still be available. Right, Cheryl? We'll still have the same link? So you just mute yourself and come back here at 12 o'clock. Thank you. This meeting is in recess.